So another moment from this town hall that Donald Trump did on Fox News was about Afghanistan, Syria, and Donald Trump said the quiet part out loud. Take a look at what he said. Pay close attention.
Oh, but just so you understand, so we knocked out the ISIS caliphate in vast amounts of the Middle East, and I did that fairly quickly. When I came, again, President Obama, it was all over the place. When I say we're not doing the borders, we did leave soldiers. We left soldiers because I kept the oil. And I was always against Iraq, going into Iraq. I think it was one of the worst, maybe the worst decision ever made. But I used to say, once they were in there, keep the oil. They never kept the oil. We have an oil area near Syria and in Syria. We kept it. So the only soldiers I have over there, they're guarding the oil. We kept the oil. So we kept the treasure. That's okay.
But if it takes more troops to keep the Taliban from taking over Afghanistan, is that something you would be willing to do or no?
Well, you know, there's a big question about the government of Afghanistan. There's a big question about that whole situation in Afghanistan. We're getting along very well with everybody. We have to get our people back home. It's not fair. We're a police force over there. We're maintaining things. Eventually, we have to leave. We don't want to stay there for another 20 years. We don't want to stay there for 100 years. We want our people to come back home. All right.
You heard it straight from the man. He's like, oh yeah, we are in Syria, but it's okay because we're keeping the oil. And yeah, I was against the war in Iraq, but you know, since we're already in there, let's just keep the oil. Jesus Christ. I mean, the guy is on national television blatantly telling you about this imperialist neoconservative agenda. It's unbelievable. And then he switches to like a leftist position where he's like, we shouldn't be the world's police force. We should get out of there. He tricks you. You know, he's really a trickster and a showman. That's what Donald Trump does. He just leads you off somewhere without really answering the question and portrays himself as having these anti-war populist leftist positions, but then at the same time giving you the truth about American foreign policy. It's all about the treasure. He literally said it, man. You have a sitting American president telling you on camera, on national television, the only goal of the United States is to take over the oil in Syria right now. And this is a form of economic terrorism, okay? We already know that the United States and their coalition, they're in Syria illegally. Do you know how important that oil is? The oil in Syria is 1/4 of all the government's revenue comes from oil. So he's effectively holding it hostage as a bargaining chip. And he's saying like, oh yeah, well, you know, it doesn't matter if we kill 1 million Iraqi civilians. As long as we're there, we might as well just take the oil. This is disgusting. This is blatant imperialism, neocolonialism agenda. One thing that he said also about how he is the one that defeated ISIS. He is the one that took down the caliphate. This is completely ridiculous. America literally created ISIS. Just by invading Iraq, toppling Saddam, you created a power vacuum in the region. And then all these jihadists, these extremists, these radicals come crawling out of the woodwork. And that's what you get. You get things like ISIS and Hayat Tahrir al-Sham and Jaish al-Islam and all these offshoots of Al-Qaeda, radical groups come out of the woodwork because you created that power vacuum. And then you fund those groups on top of it. Okay, we know for a fact Operation Timber Sycamore, the CIA was funneling arms from Libya over into Syria to jihadists. They're supporting rebels right now in Idlib. So we know that America created these organizations in the first place, okay? And by trying to topple Assad after toppling Saddam, again, this further enlarged this power vacuum in the region. That's the first thing. Now, on top of it, if you have any clue about what's going on in Syria, you know damn well that the Russian army and the Syrian army and Hezbollah and Iran are really the force that took care of ISIS, because what the United States did with the UK and France is put on a show. You know, they conduct a few airstrikes here and there as an excuse to invade the country and install bases there. It's like, oh, no, we're just here to fight ISIS. We're just here to fight the bad guys. No, what they're doing is imposing their will on the Syrian people and installing bases and maintaining an occupational force. It's an invasion. It's colonialism. That's exactly what it is. They always use excuses. They use the excuse of WMDs to go into Iraq. And this is the same thing. They create ISIS on purpose and they go in and pretend like, oh, we're fighting the bad guys. No, this is nonsense. They're trying to effectuate regime change. Their presence is supposed to be a threat. Okay, and as he said, they're occupying the oil fields. It's a bargaining chip. They're holding it hostage because they know how much it means for the Syrian economy. They're doing it on purpose so the Syrian economy, the country, can't be rebuilt. This didn't start with Trump, obviously. Obama and Joe Biden played a great role in this. But this is just a proof that no matter what president you get, you're always going to have a continuation of this neoconservative, war hawk imperialism. Always. So when Donald Trump tries to take credit for defeating ISIS, I mean, this is ridiculous. Again, like I said, Russia and the Syrian army are mainly the forces that defeated ISIS. That's what they don't want you to know. They want to take all the credit after they actually created the threat, right? Same thing with the Taliban. You know, since he also talked about Afghanistan, they created the Taliban in the 80s, and then, oh, now we got to go into Afghanistan to defeat the Taliban. They create the problem so they can offer their own solution at the same time and enact this imperialist foreign policy, which benefits the military-industrial complex and the 1%, et cetera, et cetera. You guys already know the drill. Now, what he's saying about Afghanistan is this recent peace deal that they struck, which is very obscure and weird because one day after they signed it, you have airstrikes being carried out by the US and 40 attacks by the Taliban. You don't know what the hell is going on. Honestly, Donald Trump is full of it. He's saying that, oh, we're going to withdraw troops from Afghanistan, but he's just going to put them back to Obama numbers. So I think when he came into office, there was about 8,000 troops there. He raised it to 13,000, and now he's saying, oh, we're pulling out, but what he's just doing is bringing them back to 8,000. It's going to be the same amount of troops as before. This is a never-ending war. It's a cash cow for the military-industrial complex and for the CIA to run their drug empire with the opium. I mean, just look at how opium production skyrocketed after the invasion of Afghanistan. It's all smoke and mirrors. Don't believe it for 1 second. And also what Donald Trump is trying to do here is make himself look good for re-election. Okay, he wants to look like, oh, I'm the guy who signed a peace deal and ended the war in Afghanistan, and we're just keeping a tiny bit of troops there to make sure the peace deal goes through. But you know, like, I'm the one who ended the war. I take the credit. So you need to re-elect me. It's all just a show for re-election. That's it. So I don't think there is any peace deal. It's just a bunch of baloney. And I just wanted to show you this clip because it's so clear. He's literally telling you to your face the only reason American troops are in Syria and Iraq is to occupy the oil. I mean, how much more clear can you get? Like, you know, if you criticize the Iraq war and you said that it's just about oil, people would call you unpatriotic. They'd say that you're a traitor and you support Saddam and all this nonsense. Look at him, man. They're not even hiding it anymore. They don't even care. They're saying it right to your face. This is just terrible. So that was a very interesting clip, a very important nugget of truth right there.